Hello and welcome to another episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Today is Friday, November 19th, 2021. It is 2 months from my birthday, and this is episode 41B. This will be a pretty fun episode because we did just this morning and just a couple of days ago get the February 2021 solicitations for Marvel and DC Comics. So we have both of those to go over. I'll be going over things that are new number ones, things that are continuing that are noteworthy, and anything else relevant that I am interested in. And the reason, I just wanted to get this in there before I lose people, the reason that I go over the solicitations each time that we get them out for a new month, is a couple of reasons why. First off, when you hit a certain level of, let's say, confidence in your comic book reading, you're going to start recognizing creator names, writer names, artist names, things like that. And I try to include as much of that as I can, especially for the new stuff that's going to be coming out starting in each month that I'm talking about for solicitations. Because then you, as the listener, hopefully will start to recognize the names as well, see things coming in advance, seeing trends with the creators. If you have any creators who you follow, you'll hear those names before the issue is out or before the order deadline is out, so you'll be able to get those issues that you're interested in for the creators. It's also helpful to preview what's coming next in the world of the comics, and at least vaguely keep up with relevant information on characters and arcs that you're interested in. If you also, the listener, find something that strikes your fancy more than usual, that's another reason I like to keep going through the things that are starting up new each month, so that if anybody just hasn't had something that's clicked with them, maybe, there's something new that will. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, each month's orders for any month's comics have to be in over a month prior to their release. It's closer to 2 months that these orders deadlines are. So knowing what's coming in advance is pretty important for regular readers, especially if you're following certain story arcs that you would really like to keep up with, and you're not sure if your comic shop will have them. So those are some of the reasons why I like to go over the solicitations for each coming month as they are announced, and I hope that it is in some way helpful or interesting to you. Other than that, that's actually going to be the last thing that we cover in the episode. We're going to start, as usual, with news, which is going to cover, at the front of it, it's going to cover a number of just announcements and reminders. Before we have one bit of news for Netflix's live-action Avatar, a bit of news of Harry Potter, of all things, and some Ahsoka casting news that is actually very recent, that just dropped a few minutes ago. As usual, after that, we'll go into the comic book picks. For this week, I did actually get a chance to read most of the week's comics before filming this B episode. So we're going to start it off with the hashtag PoisonIvyWatch, which is going to cover material from Batman's Secret Files The Gardener, which was a one-shot that came out this week, and James Tynion's last Batman issue with number 117. That will probably be taking up the bulk of the comic book pick list. Son of Kal-El number 5, Radio Apocalypse number 1, the Vampirella Holiday Special, which was actually 3 separate stories, fun fact, Wonder Woman Evolution number 1, Dark Ages number 3, and Porcelain number 4 are the other comics that we'll be covering pretty briefly for all of them, but I really liked all of those, so I felt that they were all worth mentioning in one way or another. Then the last thing that I'll talk about before getting into the solicitations for Marvel and DC Comics in February is that Tuesday release No Way Home trailer. I don't have too much to say about it. I definitely don't have too much good to say about it. But I'm not going to get all crazy and hater-ish. Hateful on it. I'm just going to be honest about how I feel about it as a person who has read a lot of Spider-Man comics and who has been a fan of comics for most of my life. So this is just my response. I don't have too much to say for it, so don't be prepared for a long rant. It's just going to be some brief things. Because I wasn't really a fan of that trailer. There were some funny bits, but I wasn't. But in any case, we'll go ahead and get started with my usual intro here. If you would like to find me on Instagram, if you're finding me online, you can find me on Instagram. My username is Anna with the Comics. My Twitter username is Savage She-Geek, and my website is sensationalshegeek.weebly.com. All of these things are linked or tagged in the bottom of each episode's description, so it's there if you would like to just find links to it to make it easier there. But on my website, if you end up there at any point in time, what you can find there is all of the blogging and writing that I did previous to starting this podcast, and now everything that I would be writing about, I just put into the podcast because it is a lot more convenient than writing a single review for every single comic that I read each week. But that's what I used to do on the website, so you can find all of that previous stuff on there if you would like to go back and read all of what I used to write for my site. You can also find reading orders for some of my favorite female characters, including some of them, Madeline Pryor and Ileana Rasputin, who are going to become very relevant in the Marvel Universe soon, and Clea, who is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Multiverse of Madness. If you'd like to know about their characters, I have a ton of integral information on them on those reading orders. I also have my pod notes, which I'm very behind upon posting once again, for reading along with the podcast instead of listening to it, if you prefer. That for just regular listeners or for people who are hearing impaired who would like to keep up with the podcast, that is available for them as well. The last thing you can find are links to everywhere that you can listen to the podcast. For some reason, Spotify skipped episode 40. Not sure why, but 41A is up there, so sorry if you missed that episode on Spotify. I'm not sure what that was all about. I never got an answer for my help email, so yay! But YouTube is another place that I have all of my podcast episodes in a single playlist in order, so they're easy to find. And I also post action figure review videos. The 2020 HasLab Sentinel, the Marvel Legends Tigra, Greer Grant, and the Shadow Meowskulls from Fortnite. Public disclosure notice, I do not play Fortnite, just FYI. But those are my most recent reviews. Plus, I did this morning, or actually yesterday, a tour of our action figure collection under black light, which I'm not gonna lie, was super fun to record, and I hope you get some amount of enjoyment from it. I will also be doing a video covering Captain Carter, who we've had unboxed here for a week or so already, but she deserves a review. She is fantastic. I also have a podcast Patreon under Sensational She-Geek, so that's easy to find. It's set up for monthly donations to support the podcast. Nothing is ever expected. If you turn it on and turn it off for some months and other months, I'm never gonna message you and call you out on it. Honestly, I don't really pay attention to it for the most part, which I really should, because I would probably get more involvement. But it's there in case you have any desire for that, to donate to the podcast that way. I also have my Ko-fi, Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal all linked on my Linktree, which again should appear linked at the bottom of every episode's description. I am kind of hoping that this weekend I'll be able to order some stickers for the podcast. I think I had mentioned before I was trying to hand make some stickers, and it was just not working out. I couldn't get anything that would actually work well as a back for the tape to peel off of. So I'm going to go ahead and try and order a small amount of stickers and see how those turn out. So go ahead and send me a message if you would like me to mail you one or several, if you promise to put them in geeky public places where they hopefully won't get removed immediately. And finally, I made my Redbubble store, and my only thing that has sold there is the Woman's Place is in the Comic Shop sticker. It's a play on the age-old saying that we all know and hate, and that is Redbubble, so you can get it as a shirt, a mug, a print, whatever really you would like to have it as, and that is on there under She-Geek Shop. This week in the news, let's start out with these reminders and announcements. First off, all 10 episodes of Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop are live as we speak. I went online to check this morning at the request of my husband as he was at work, and all 10 episodes are up. I did not get too long to look at it because I was trying not to spoil it for myself, but they are up. They are available. We will probably be watching those starting tomorrow, and I will give some kind of brief, thus far, how I feel about it, summary on the next episode, which is going to happen Monday. Also, the first 3 episodes of Wheel of Time are now available on Amazon, which is going to be premiering weekly on Fridays from here on out. I have not read the books or seen anything about the show, really, to be honest, but every single person who I've heard say that they did read the books absolutely love them and are extremely excited for the show. It's being called a Game of Thrones style show, which is, I guess, the new way to just say medieval. That's all it is, just magical medieval. We also had a bit of news. Remember that Hawkeye premieres on Wednesday, but a funny thing, I don't know actually what day this occurred on, but Haley Steinfeld was on her press tour thing, and she got asked a question about Young Avengers, if that was going to be a thing that happens in the MCU, and she did a full body turnaround to look directly behind her at Kevin Feige, who was also at the interview, who gives her a very panicked, "What are you doing? Stop being obvious" look. So take that as you will, but I think that was a pretty sure confirmation that they've at least discussed it. If nothing else, it has been brought up. Which brings us to the proper news segment. First up is another Netflix live-action project, Avatar. There's a lot of strained emotions surrounding the idea of this Avatar show even existing. Is it a show or is it a movie? Honestly, I'm not sure. But we had a bit of news this past week, and it was a bit of positive news, thank the Lord. And that is that we have a casting for Uncle Iroh. And I think all of the internet and all of fans of any of these projects can agree that this was probably the ideal casting. It is Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, who you may recognize from Appa from Kim's Convenience. He is the father figure. And he was one of the, what would you call them? Rebel fighters? Police force, basically, in Mandalorian, who shows up on the ice planet and tells Mando to get out. It wasn't the ice planet, they were up in space. I think it was the ice planet after that. Yeah. Because then they showed up and they're like, well, we should arrest you, but we're not going to. But anyway, that's him. And he's a huge, huge Star Wars fan, and he's a major geek. So it is very, very cool to see that not only an Asian American man has been cast in this role, but it is also a massive fan of the topic. So that is the good news. I would say so. That does not mean that I am expecting this to be a fantastic live-action Netflix Avatar, but it'll have some positive features to it at the very least. The Harry Potter news involves HBO. There's going to be a Return to Hogwarts special coming to HBO Max. This is not a fictional thing that is coming. This is not a Harry Potter continuation story. They are not going to be in roles. It's just going to be, quote, tell an enchanting making-of story through an all-new, in-depth interviews and cast conversations, which could be something extremely scripted by Warner / AT&T as kind of a publicity, reining it in sort of things, because let's be honest, there's been a lot of bad publicity surrounding the Harry Potter machine in the past 5 years or so. We all know that. I won't go into the couple of reasons for that, but that's one reason that I'm seeing this being made is it could be a massive publicity double down, trying to remind people why we love this pure, wholesome family thing. That's the one side of it that I'm seeing a possibility of. The other side of it would be what I actually want. I don't want something that Warner gives them the guidelines of what they can talk about and what reminds them of, oh, and don't mention this and don't mention that, and, you know, if you had a bad time, definitely don't mention that. I want the dirt. I want the real goods. I want who was crushing on who got into it behind the scenes and almost kicked somebody else in the nutsack, what kind of dramas and crap were there like that. We all have this image of the Harry Potter set being so pure, and I think partially is because it's British, and the other partially is because they were kids when it all began. But is that the reality, especially as the actors got older? I'm sure there is something interesting and juicy for them to spill, and I want those beans. If it's not that, I honestly don't know if I'm gonna care about it. But if you are a Harry Potter stan, as there are still many my age and older, I good for you. If it is that other one that I don't want, because I'm sure you'll like it just the same. And finally, for the Ahsoka show casting news, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who I probably just slaughtered the name of, has been cast to play Sabine Wren in the Ahsoka Disney Plus series, which is very exciting because at the end of Rebels, the last time that we saw the animated Ahsoka, she and Sabine were setting off to find Ezra Bridger, who you will remember is their Jedi companion, well, Sabine's Jedi companion, who had kind of sort of sacrificed himself for their escape, but odds are he survived, so they're going to go off and find him. Sabine herself is a Mandalorian, and she is an Imperial Academy dropout. She's a really cool character with some really interesting family ties and relationship ties, so I am thrilled for this casting to find that she is going to be in it, and I am also very happy that she has been cast as a woman of Asian descent, as Sabine was very clearly designed to be as such. Well, I mean, it's space, but you see what I'm saying, so really happy to find out about that casting. I don't have a clue what this actress has been in. I read the article and it had some names of some things she was in, and I had never heard of a single one of them, I don't think, so I'm excited. I have no reason to think this is bad news, so it's only good news. This week's comic book picks, as I mentioned, we're going to combine the Batman 117 and Batman Secret Files The Gardener issues for Poison Ivy Watch as the first chunk of this. Then we'll go over Superman Son of Kal-El number 5, Radio Apocalypse number 1, the Vampirella Holiday Special 2021, Wonder Woman Evolution number 1, Dark Ages number 3, and Porcelain number 4. All of those somewhat briefly aside from the Poison Ivy Watch stuff, which we'll kick off now with Batman Secret Files The Gardener. This was a one-shot. To preface this hashtag Poison Ivy Watch discussion, I have very mixed feelings on what they have done with the character. I don't know if this was due to editorial pushing or due to Tynion trying to do something with the character new and different. I'm not sure, but for the most part, I am generally unhappy with this. The changes to Pamela Isley's character, well, her origin specifically, are mostly poor in my opinion. They have changed it so that she and Bella Gardner, the gardener, they were dating in college, which is fine, whatever, until she got mixed up in Professor Woodrow's experiments, who he is a standby in her origin, sure, but they become sexually involved in this new origin, and then he leads her to become Ivy, and she grows her powers over the years. Nah. They also added that it was that Ivy was always hopeful that she could get humanity to stop and listen to what she felt about the plants and what the plants felt about the world and stuff. And while that's accurate to her as Pam, the human, her as Ivy honestly could care less about humans. Her priority is the survival of nature. Humanity be damned. The change they made here didn't really make sense, in my opinion. They said Bella uses her science to find the purest parts of Ivy and saves them in a seed so that when she needs it again, she will have it for her. I feel like I maybe missed something here, but it didn't match up. It didn't make sense to me. So I don't really like this retconning. Pamela was always a wallflower in her origin before she was Ivy. She had no social life and she was awkward. She admired Woodrow, but definitely never had a romance with him. He manipulated her as a hero of hers, but there was not a sexual component to it. This is all part of why her transformation into Poison Ivy then was even more dramatic, because it was such a flip. The parts of her that she was always afraid to let loose become the main facets of her personality. The anger against humanity on behalf of nature being a key component to that personality. And him being tiny and adding in the trauma of a man hurting Ivy is totally unnecessary. Romantically hurting her. He should have been able to do something similar like that without making it sexual trauma, basically. That just took it to a whole nother level of dark that it just did not need to go. Ivy hates humanity for their constant lack of care towards the natural world. She doesn't need to be any kind of broken woman to have that anger. She doesn't need to have gone through horrifying things to have that anger. No one does. Batman number 117 got similar feels about the Ivy stuff that happened there, but basically just a quick rundown of the events. Innocent Ivy that Bella grew and Queen Ivy reunite, and then she and Harley finally get together again, and Ivy covers the city of Gotham in pheromones to stop the fear state chemicals. The end. Something that I read that is a comment online about Tynian's Batman run that was just so on point. You know, if you've listened to this before, you know I was a big fan of Tom King's Batman, because I really loved the romance side of it. What are you gonna do? Call me a girl, I don't care, like, oh, so what, I like it. And I really liked how he kind of changed up how things were told, so to say. But he stuck with a lot. I mean, I think besides one or two characters, he stuck with characters who were already in the Bat universe established in some way. And I saw this comment online about Tynian's run, and it had me cackling, so I just wanted to mention it here. He says, Tynian just doesn't understand the Bat family, so he flooded it with a bunch of OCs he could play with, hoping one of them would catch on and he'd get royalties in the future. That describes so perfectly what reading his Batman felt like. So perfectly. But anyway, moving on from just Tynian not understanding Batman, and into what he wrote about Ivy. So, Everyone Loves Ivy is an arc of Tom King's Batman, interestingly enough, which is referenced in this issue of Batman, Tynian's last issue. They are saying here that Bella Garden she first realized Ivy was on a path to dying, I guess, when she took over all of the Justice League during that arc of Batman, because she was mad, and honestly feeling like she was going to lose her friend, that Selina intended to marry Batman, Selina Kyle, Catwoman. There was, in that arc, no indication that there was anything wrong with her, no reason for readers to think anything was going to come of that arc, aside from her settling and coming to terms with it. It seems very random that this is what they choose to reference of Tom King's DC work, when his killing of and bringing back of Poison Ivy and Heroes in Crisis is literally what started her on this exact journey of her character developing into something slightly different and more powerful than what she was before. They even go as far in the Gardner special as to note that Ivy was going through dramatic changes, but completely ignoring the why of this. And the why was because she'd been brought back by the Flash, basically, as part of the Green. Basically, it's Stewart in the way that Swamp Thing has been in the past. And Stewart, did I say Stewart? Steward. that was all gone over in the 6th issue, which I really loved, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy series, which again is another series that is totally ignored in these issues this week. Both of them, Batman 117 and the Gardner one-shot. Even though the main villain in that series was friggin' Woodrow as well. They even go as far as to list the events leading us to where they are now, but only post New 52, or pre-New 52. The only post New 52 thing coming after New 52, i.e. Rebirth, and forward, that they reference at all, is that Everyone Loves Ivy arc in Tom King's Batman, and completely ignoring all the other stuff that was far more relevant to where she is now, i.e. Heroes in Crisis' finale, and the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy series, and then the handful of things that she's been in since then. Up until she's been in Tiny Toon's Batman, I would say. So I don't know. I don't get why they spent years setting her up to be here for certain reasons, and now they are pretending that none of that ever happened. I guess the positive thing to take away is that Ivy does seem to be whole again. There doesn't seem to be a reason to assume that there will be any more drastic changes of her character. Now we're kind of at this phase, I feel like we're just hesitantly waiting to see what exactly they're going to do with her now, because we know she and Harley are getting back together in canon, officially, publicly. But then what? They're not going to have her tag along in a Harley Quinn series. That you can pretty much guarantee. There has been no talk of Poison Ivy stories coming further down the line, even through February solicitations that we have to talk about today. So it is unknown. I'm not really sure what their plan of wrapping her story arc, where they're going next with it. Especially since they suddenly veered away from where this all started and what it all came from, and kind of used the gardener to try and pretend she was that instead. And the last thing I want to mention about this, I saw some people complaining about, and I understand this in a sense, but I don't think it applies to Ivy. I saw people complaining about how a lot of times when you have comic characters or fictional characters who get announced as being queer in some way or another, it then becomes retconned often that they knew they were queer and they acted on their queerness through their whole, sexual history in the past and romantic history in the past. And while Ivy, I don't think that quite works out. I would say that I would definitely say that her having been involved with Professor Woodrow is more of a turn against her true character than her having been involved with Bella at the same time. Her and Bella would have made sense, but her hooking up with her science hero, that was the wallflower palette that she would have been like, notice me, senpai, in the corner. But having dated a woman in college, I don't think that really takes her out of the wallflower category. You can still be a wallflower and be extremely whatever. You get the point. But this complaint, though, I think that would work if they were to, the complaint would be valid if they were to have done that with a character like Harley Quinn, who, up until her initiation of the romance with Ivy, was not really interested in women. She pretty much was into dudes, flirted with the dudes, was the Joker's gal. I think if they tried to retcon Harley's past to say that she was bisexual and in her teenage years and her college years, I think that would be far more detrimental to her character than Ivy having been queer in the past is to hers. Because people do come to the conclusion, or they do learn things about themselves as they get older. You're not always born knowing that you're like men or women or whichever the case may be. you might develop and learn these things and feelings over time, and that's completely normal. And so that's where that complaint stems from. For Ivy, I don't think it's valid, but if they were to do that with someone like Harley, I hope that all made sense. Let's move on from this. I am curious if you have any thoughts on what they've done with Ivy or what they think they might be doing with her in the future, though, because it seems that this was leading up to something, and now she's just kind of dropping off the face of the comics earth again. So let me know what you think. Moving on very briefly to the rest of these, Superman Son of Kal-El number 5 was very good. I asked my comic shop if I could have that one because it is, of course, the issue where John Kent does technically come out. He for the first time kisses his new partner, or I guess who will be his new partner. And there's a few things that I'm not keeping up with his story too much. I just wanted this issue. I have a lot of the coming out issues that exist out there. So I just wanted to add this to my collection. But I did not realize before this, John Kent's villain, his name is Bendix. Like Bendix. Bendix. As in similar to Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis, who notoriously wrote a very hated Superman run fairly recently, and aged up John Kent, which nobody really liked. So now they have his villain called Bendix. That has to be on purpose. There's no way that's a coincidence. They definitely had to know what they were doing here. Also, in this issue, there was really cool art of John talking to the Flash in super speed, because he gets like supercharged and he's like going around super fast and he can't slow down, and so he goes and he talks to Wally really fast because Wally's the only one who's going to be able to hear what he's saying and understand him, which I thought was a cool little storytelling device to use there. And it was a good issue. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but for the most part I was able to figure it all out, and everything seemed very natural. Nothing was awkwardly written. To give an example of an awkwardly written coming out issue, when Alan Scott came out to his kids in that awful tiny and written comic, it was so bad. Oh my god, that is what we call an awkward coming out issue. It was so unrealistic and awkward, and just like, have you ever interacted with a queer person in your life? Apparently, but I question it. Anyway, there's also something else I wanted to talk about while we're on the topic of Superman. There are people who seem to think that Kal-El / Clark Kent is going to be killed off because his son is Superman. No, that is not happening. I would bet lots of money on it if I had the chance. Why? The damn Action Comics writer himself has come out and said that he has also heard this rumor and has no idea where it came from, because he has, in his own words, years of plans for Clark. He's also established, as far back as February, that Clark is going to outlive everybody, basically, and lives for thousands of years. Just because he's not on Earth as Superman at the moment doesn't mean they're writing off his character. He's still very active in the DC universe, just not on Earth. Radio Apocalypse number 1 was by Rom V, and I am blown away. This is really cool. It was super fascinating, because the intro to the comic is basically them writing in and saying this comic was created to a soundtrack and it's meant to be read to the same soundtrack, which I went ahead and did, as I'm sure, I hope anybody else who reads it does, because it's 2021. You do have access to these songs in some way or another. It is just really fascinating how Rom V has yet again broken through another style of comic storytelling. In The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd issue, he wrote entirely from the perspective of a goddamn cigarette. And it is easily one of the best fucking comics I read in 2021. No lie. I feel like he has broken through an equally tremendous barrier here into something new. By adding an actual soundtrack to these issues, the song choices essentially make the comic function as a movie. This is the storyboard, colored and written out in detail, and that is the soundtrack. He can make sure the scenes translate to exactly the feel and the vibe that he wants to have come across, because the music ensures it, cements it in what he's trying to get across, and it works out perfectly, and I am obsessed already with the first issue. Vampirella Holiday Special 2022. 2021. Had 3 stories in it. The first of which was most of the issue, and honestly, I did not like it. The second of which had some of the most stunning Vampirella art I have ever seen, with some really, really cool costume designs. It was a super cute story of Vampirella fighting a dragon on Christmas Eve, I think in New York, and then she ends up killing it by busting out of the middle, and due to that, onlookers think that she's Krampus, which is goddamn hilarious. And then the third story is just Vampirella on a hunt. She hears somebody scream and finds Santa Claus losing a battle with a demon for some reason. She kills the demon, but it's too late, and as Santa dies, he passes... There's no words in this, by the way. As Santa dies, he passes her his red hat, and she becomes Vampy Claus, which is so hilarious and awesome. Those 2 short stories at the end, I really wish they had been all that was in the issue, and you could have elaborated on them a little bit. Because they were both really creative and really cool, and I just enjoyed the crap out of them for even as short as they were. Wonder Woman Evolution #1 is by Stephanie Phillips and by Mike Hawthorne. One of the first things that I had to stop and note about this was how much I see Frank Miller's style in Hawthorne's designs for Diana, from the shape of her very Roman nose to the metal crown pressed to her forehead down the bridge of her, between her eyes. Just absolutely stunning design, and it just reminded me so much of Frank Miller. I love this extremely Greek design of Diana. There is also a beautiful showcase, just gorgeous scene of her and Clark talking about their friendship, which you have to know that it is a friendship unlike any other. They are different species from different planets altogether, but they are the people who can each relate to most on this planet. They are one of a kind, but together they are 2 of a kind, in a sense. They're just such unique. And again, I kind of felt like a bit of a nod to Frank Miller, because of course Frank Miller's Batman Dark Knight universe, Diana and Clark are parents together and lovers, so it did kind of feel like a nod in Frank Miller's direction for writing there as well. The basic plot of Wonder Woman Evolution #1 in this first issue is that Diana is taken off Earth to be used for humanity's judgment by some cosmic superpowers. If she cannot prove that they are all worthy, they will die. Dark Ages #3 was pretty fun. I honestly forgot the series existed, but hopefully I won't next time. This issue, they send Quicksilver out to scout Apocalypse's base, but he sees Magneto, his father, and messes up. He screws it up, and they catch him. They send him back under Purple Man's control, so he gets to kill Okoye and Johnny Storm before they're able to knock him out. He lives to tell them what he saw at Apocalypse's base once he's back to himself, and that includes having seen Reed Richards, which is what makes them decide finally to invade. Meanwhile, Apocalypse is already completely aware of all of this, and has one really terrifying trick up his sleeve, what appears to be Carnage Miles Morales. And then we have Maria LeVay's Porcelain #4, where the story is really starting to take shape. This is going to have one more issue. And here we find out the dollmaker is Valentina, who was once a young girl who went through a horrible ordeal, but is now the keeper of this terrifying dollhouse of nightmares. The dollmaker traps the young girl Beryl, and intends to take her heart and give it to one of her dolls, or perhaps it was the other way around. but Beryl's black cat claws at the dollmaker and gives Beryl a chance to escape her bindings, stabbing the dollmaker, and then dollmaker changes into a form that looks more like the once girl Valentina, and Beryl confronts her about her past. So the 5th issue, no doubt we're going to get a little bit more explanation on who this dollmaker is and why she is kidnapping girls and killing them. Now, for the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, my honest-to-God reaction is pretty much right up there with meh. Just meh. I had mentioned before that I'm getting a little bit of Spider-Man fatigue. Even my husband is getting Spider-Man fatigue, and that's his absolute favorite comic book character of all time. Spider-Man was the first book that he read, was Spider-Man comics. And we're getting Spider-Man fatigue because of this. And it did not help that Tom Holland, Zendaya, and what's his name, who plays not Genki, but his friend there what's his name? Whatever. They were made to they put them in this video together, trying say, oh yeah, we're reacting to the trailer, and it was obviously so incredibly fake. And not a thing matched up with what actually was going on in the trailer. But it was just super cringy, and I hated every second of it. The trailer, basically, it gives you the plot rundown here. It's Spider-Man basically messes up the spell for people to forget who he is, and rips through reality, letting in his villains from other universes. Doctor Strange says he has to send them back, but when they go back, they'll all get killed by those Spider-Men in those universes. Peter doesn't want that to happen, so after he captures them, he sets them all free instead of sending them back to die. It's just Spider-Man being an idiot, honestly. He's been stupid. Yeah, I'll see if they can sell it in the movie, but I'm not vibing with it right now at all. Now let's go ahead and get started with Marvel Comics in February. Whew, I had a tough time getting that out. 2022. First off, 2022 is a big Spider-Man anniversary, so that's why we're going to start seeing so much Spider-Man stuff being solicited for next year. We're going to start when we get to DC, it'll be the same. So we'll start this off with things that are just continuing. We have Black Widow number 15 is going to have another absolutely stunning Adam Hughes cover. You can go check it out. Thor number 22 seems to have Angela featured in the issue since she and others are on the cover. Phoenix Song Echo number 5 of 5 finishes up that series. Ms. Marvel Beyond the Limit continues with issue 3 of 5. Hawkeye Kate Bishop continues with 4 of 5. Dark Ages with 5 of 5. Sabretooth series was pushed back till February, so the number 1 is now in February and not January. There is another Maestro series coming out called World War M. MODOK is going to be a character popping up in X-Men number 8, which, to be honest, I'm probably not going to get past issue 7 of X-Men if I have to guess. And Luke Cage City of Fire finishes with issue 3 of 3. Now, for the news, for the number 1s, we have some really exciting ones here, starting off with Spider-Gwen Gwenverse number 1. This is going to be of 5 issues. It's written by Tim Seeley with art by Jody Nishijima. There's going to be a cover by, the main cover is by David Nakayama. That's pretty cool. He usually does variants, and he usually does a lot of store-exclusive variant covers, so cool that he's going to have the main cover. It'll be really easy to get that collection started if you're into David Nakayama. He is the artist who, his little signature is DNA. It has a variant by Leonardo Romero and other variants by, Greg Land. Who cares about that? Peach Momoko and Natasha Bustos. What it says about this series: not enough Gwens. When Gwen Stacy was bitten by a radioactive spider, she gained arachnid-like superpowers and started a crime-fighting career as Spider-Woman, or so she's affectionately known to her peers, Ghost Spider. But what would have happened if she instead had picked up the enchanted hammer Mjolnir, or if she received the super soldier serum, or built a high-tech suit of armor, or you get the idea. Find out in this new 5-issue miniseries by Tim Seeley. Apparently he's doing Heroes Reborn Marvel double action. And Jody Nishiyama, who did, I guess, United States of Captain America, as Ghost Spider tumbles through time and comes face to face with herself. Obviously that sounds hilarious and fun. I am obviously in. One thing I'm wondering, I don't think Rico Renzi is going to be involved in this, which is kind of disappointing because Rico Renzi was a big part of... He's a colorist and designer who had a really, really big hand in getting the whole Spider-Gwen aesthetic solidified in her universe and in just her personal aesthetic. So hopefully he's going to be involved, but there are also going to be a number of Gwens who are designed by various comic book artists, starting off with Peach Momoko, who she says she has, I believe she said 5 designs that she came up with. The first of which she showed today, which was a Captain Marvel style Gwen Stacy, which was pretty cool. So you can check that out on her Instagram, I imagine her Twitter, or anywhere else you can find her online. Ghost Rider #1 is starting off in February with Benjamin Percy at the head and Corey Smith on art. We're going to have covers by Cale New, Todd Knox, Scotty Young, Torrin Clark, Inyuk Lee, Peach Momoko, Benjamin Sue, Adam Kubert, Ryan Stegman, and Jorge Fornes. So, just in case you didn't have enough choices. There's a few there. What it talks about, this is going to be a series about Johnny Blaze. It says, Johnny Blaze has a perfect life, a wife and 2 kids, a job at an auto repair shop, and a small town community that supports him. But Johnny isn't doing well. He has nightmares of monsters when he sleeps, and he sees bloody visions when he's awake. This life is beginning to feel like a prison. There's a spirit in him that's begging to break out. Benjamin Percy and Corey Smith are going back to basics with a spirit of vengeance in this extra-sized first issue. I honestly can't say here if this is going to be a new kickoff to the Johnny Blaze stuff or if it's going to be a flashback origin story. Not really sure. Last time I knew, Johnny Blaze was ruling hell, so maybe they'll explain how he gets from there to here. I don't know. But this definitely feels like it's not going to be connected to what we've seen him do in comics in the past. Carnage Forever #1. I knew Venom had his moment, and now Carnage is having his. This is by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Rom V, and Ty Templeton. I gotta say, Rom V and Philip Kennedy Johnson are getting bank on both sides of the big two. At least I hope they are. They're probably not getting paid nearly enough. We have Edgar Salazar, Ty Templeton, and more on art. This is covers by Kendrick Lim, Mark Bagley, John Boy Mayers, and Dan Panosian. So it's a killer celebration. Cletus Cassidy is the most notorious serial killer in the Marvel Universe, and it's been 30 years since his Is this just a reprint? She will have it all. Look back on Carnage's past, his present, and just maybe the first hints you'll get of his visceral... Okay, so it's going to be some reprints, and then some new stuff. I thought that was going to be its own series, but what do I know? I clearly didn't read this before this. Savage Spider-Man #1. We have Joe Kelly as writer with Gerardo Sandoval as artist. Cover by Nick Bradshaw. It says this is Spider-Man as like you've never seen him before, which honestly is something they say in comics all the time about all characters ever. Peter Parker finds himself at the middle of the biggest, most wide-ranging adventure he's ever had, and out of the gate has turned him into a savage beast. Forget everything you know about Spider-Man. All rules and regulations are out the door, and Peter Parker may never be the same. Again, they say stuff like that in comics all the time. Peter Parker will be fine. Secret X-Men #1. This is Teenie Howard, who I adore, with Francesco Mobili. I'm not sure which one is right there. And covered by Lionel Francis Yu, who is an amazing Filipino artist. Also was the artist in charge of Secret Invasion, which we talked about on the podcast last episode, well, Disney Plus episode, whatever it was. There is going to be a variant by Tony S. Daniel as well. It says, it's the X-Men. When the Shi'ar Empire faces an unexpected threat, they must call upon the X-Men. Team Spirit team co-captain Sunspot and Cannonball must lead Marrow, Tempo, Forge, Banshee, Strong Guy, Armor, and Boom Boom on a secret mission to save Empress Xandra. And then it says, it's my cat scratching, wait, aren't those those aren't the X-Men? Aren't those the mutants who lost the election? which is pretty funny. So I guess this is them making sure nobody has room to bitch that their favorite character didn't wind up in the X-Men. On that same note, kind of, we have Excellent #1, that is X-Cellent. This is going to be by Peter Milligan and Michael Allred, with covers by Matthias Manhanini and David Mack, and Scotty Young too, but who cares? This is something really interesting. I'll read the solicitation and then I'll go over a little bit of the history of this whole concept. It says, "It's finally here. They were loved by their adoring fans. They were reviled by the harsh press. They lived, they loved, they fought, and they died. A lot. All for the sake of fame. They were Ecstatics, a team of mutant celebrities fighting for a brighter world and an even brighter spotlight. But they're old news now, because there's a new mutant team that will live harder, love harder, fight harder, and die a whole lot harder than those has-beens. Peter Milligan, Michael Allred, and Laura Allred return to introduce the best new superhero team you didn't know you needed. Meet the Excellent." Obviously, it sounds entertaining. Now let's go over some of the history of this whole concept. So Peter Milligan and Michael Allred were put as the new creative team for X-Force starting in 2001, starting off with issue number 116. Prior to their first issue, X-Force had been selling well, but reportedly had not been the critical success that Joe Quesada wanted. So Milligan and Allred decided to completely revamp the series, Allred revamped the series, designing a team more akin to pop stars or reality TV contestants than the gritty, violent paramilitary group originally portrayed by the series. The title was laced with Milligan's satirical take on superhero teams, as well as general cynicism toward the entire genre. Milligan wrote that he saw the characters' superpowers as, quote, "vehicles for exploring our celebrity and fame-obsessed society." So this kind of feels like, you may compare it to The Boys, things in that vein where it's kind of the cynical take on superheroes for hire kind of situation. In our capitalistic world, it's very understandable. But I'll check out that first issue for sure. Iron Fist gets a new series with issue 1 of 5 by Alyssa Wong, with art by Michael Yeague, with cover by Jim Chung, and then variants by Nick Dragotta, Todd Knott, Gunji, and Lionel Francis Yu. It says, who is the new Iron Fist? After giving up his power to save the world, Danny Rand believes he's seen the last of the Iron Fist. But when demons begin to attack cities around the world, a mysterious newcomer in an unfamiliar mask appears, hands blazing with the chi of Shao Lao, the Undying. But who is this new Iron Fist, and does his power really come from the Dragon of Kunlun, or from something far more sinister? If you're a fan of Iron Fist, you'll probably want to check that one out. And then we have Eternals, The Undying, #1 by Kieran Gillen, with art by Ryan Bodenheim. This is obviously going to follow in the same vein of the Kieran Gillen, Asad Ribic Eternals that is currently going. It says there will be a variant by Phil Noto, regular cover by Andrea Sorrentino. And what it says about this: Thanos is now ruler of the Eternals, but believe it or not, he's actually not the worst leaders the Eternal Society has ever seen. No, that honor belongs to someone even more horrific. Thanos is evil, yes, but who was the original evil from whom all eternal evils descend? Meet Uranos, the Undying, and the Celestials have mercy on your souls. That sounds so cool. I know this is probably a one shot. I don't care. I'm gonna read it. I don't care how long it takes. This shit's awesome. Marvel Voices Legacy #1 is another one of the Black History Month specials. It's going to be by, let's see, do we have all of the names? We don't have all of the names. We have some of them. We have, let's see, the writers are going to include Cody Ziglar, Natasha Bustos, Victor Laval, Jay Holtham, Maria Froch, and more. And then the artists include Maria Froelich. Oh, it's Froelich, okay. Natasha Bustos, and more. It's going to have covers by Chris Cross, Tarn Clark, Ejiwa Edge Ebenebe, Oliver Coppel, Natasha Bustos, and more. So what it says is... Okay, it's really not a good breakdown, but it says the Stormbreaker Natasha Bustos makes her writing debut with a glorious tale of Wakanda. Superstar novelist Victor Laval writes Moon Girl like you've never seen her before. Jessica Jones and Cloak and Dagger TV writer Jay Holtham explores the legacy of Sam Wilson, Captain America. Amazing Spider-Man scribe Cody Ziglar visits Marvel's Black heroes through the ages in a celebration highlighting Luke Cage's 50th anniversary. I can't read. There's so much more to come, including an incredible lineup of new and established artists. Marvel's Voices is the program for every fan. Don't let this one pass you by. They've been trying really hard with the Marvel's Voices. I'll give them that. They've kept them coming out one every couple of months for the past year and a half or so. So that's good. That's fine. We'll see. Hopefully this will be good. I imagine it will be. Now moving on to the number 2s and other continuing things. We have She-Hulk number 2. Comes in February by Rainbow Roll and Rohei Antonio, with a cover by Jen Bartel and variants by David Nakayama and TBA. It says, one of the most dangerous things in the Marvel U lands in Jen Walters' lap, and now she's got to figure out what the heck to do with it, it says. And that's all while putting her life and career back together. So my thoughts on this, just sidebar real quick. I guess one of the differences that I can give Marvel easily that gives this reason for this, quote, putting her life back together after being savage, is what they're saying, is that she didn't really manage her career while she was an Avenger in Jason Aaron's recent run, or I guess continuing run. I didn't really notice it, but I guess he just kind of let that stop after Tamaki's series. So after 4, maybe 5 years on a break from her legal practice, that's likely a big part of this putting her life back together stuff that they keep referencing. She did have friends at the time, though, so she doesn't have to completely put back together her friendships. Kelly Thompson wrote her a few times in Captain Marvel, but I suppose it's accurate that she wasn't really a contributing friend in those times. She was more like the punching bag for Carol's aggression that could just sit back and take it. So I'm very interested to see this new era of She-Hulk for sure. Silk number 2 comes in by Emily Kim with Takeshi Miyazawa and a cover by Inyuk Lee and Audrey Mock. It says, K-pop catastrophe. The new villain in town targets Silk's friend and fellow superhero, the pop star Luna Snow. The same villain is siphoning the youth of social media influencers, and Silk is racing to find out why. Can Silk save her friend, solve the mystery, and salvage a date gone awry? She can only pick 2. So the date's not going to go well. I would like more Agents of Atlas crossovers, please, especially Wave, because my Filipino husband would absolutely lose his mind, and it would be awesome. Devil's Reign and its tie-ins continue, including Devil's Reign X-Men number 2 of 3 by Gary Duggan and Phil Noto, with a variant cover by Javier Garron. It says, deals with the devil. Turns out attending Hellfire Club soirees was not the naughtiest thing Emma Frost was up to the time before she joined the X-Men. Is that allowed to be put in Marvel Comics without a censor? Okay. And the dirty deeds she did for Wilson Fisk are coming back to haunt her. This is, again, going along the story of her having rescued Sebastian Shaw's girlfriend from his abuse. And she's not dead. Yay! Daredevil Woman Without Fear continues with issues 2 of 3 by Chip Zdarsky. Captain Marvel number 37 moves on to another arc by Kelly Thompson with a new artist, again, Julius Ota, with the covers by R.B. Silva, Peach Momoko, and Ryan Gonzalez. It says, after the brutal fight in Last of the Marvels, Carol Danvers deserves a break, and so does fellow Marvel, Monica Rambeau. But with redacted, loose on Earth, the heroes have no time to breathe, and there's no telling what this new force in the Marvel Universe will do next. A perfect jumping on point for the longest Captain Marvel run yet. It does look like the post Last of the Marvels plotline is going to have Carol and Monica finally getting to know each other a little bit better, which for some reason hasn't really been done one-on-one in the past, but them saying that it's the longest run yet does make me think that it's on their mind and they're going to cancel it soon. Spider-Man number 20, Spider-Woman number 20 continues with Carla Pacheco and Perry Perez, covers by Peach Momoko and Jung Yen Yoon. This is bringing in the anti-arachnine, which was her brother's name, I think? I don't know. In Amazing Spider-Man number 88, we're having the Goblin Queen introduced, and in number 89, she fights the Black Cat. New Mutants number 24 continues with Vita Ayala, however, art is by Danilo Beyruth, covers by Martin Simmons, and Peach from Momoko. She has a lot going on that month. It says, the New Mutants regroup in the aftermath of the Shadow King's attack. What will become of Amal Farouk? Why is Warpath crying? How many Snicks can fit into one panel? What happens to the Lost when they find one another? All this and more in a single issue, plus the setup for the next big arc, a story too magical to be believed. Avengers number 53, I put in here. I'm not reading the series, but I read the solicit and my mind was kind of blown. This continues to be by Jason Aaron with Javier Garron. It says, the Avengers' impenetrable headquarters is under attack by the most supremely powerful version of Doctor Doom in existence and a wildly murderous young Thanos, still wet with his mother's blood. What? It says the Black Panther fights to defend the mountain alongside his surprising new teammates, King Namor and Jane Foster. Again, what? I'm obviously gonna have to read this to find out what the hell is going on. What? I'm guessing this is a tie-in with Heroes Reborn or whatever it is that they're doing. Avengers Forever. Heroes Reborn was the last one they did. Avengers Forever, which is happening also in February, I think. But still, what? Last one for Marvel, Iron Man number 17 is by Christopher Cantwell with art by Ibrahim Robson. It briefly mentions Hellcat in the solicitation. Again, we are here for Patsy and only Patsy. For the DC Comics February solicitations in 2022, we're going to do it the same way as we did the Marvel ones, starting off with things that are just generally being noted as continuing. That includes Aquaman The Becoming has its number 6 final issue, which leads directly into the Aquaman number 1 launch, which I'll get into when we get there. Batman The Night number 2 continues by Chip Zdarsky. Excuse me, I just belched. Batman Catwoman number 10, written by Tom King and art by Clay Mann, continues. Nubia and the Amazons number 5 of 6 continues, written by Stephanie Williams and Vita Ayala. The Human Target number 5 by Tom King and Greg Smallwood continues. And Wonder Woman Evolution number 4 of 8 goes on by Stephanie Williams with art by Mike Hawthorne. New things. Oh yeah, and then I Am Batman number 6 of 6 also happens. New things. This is the first one I'm definitely most excited about. It is called The New Champion of Shazam, number 1. It is, I believe, 3 issues that are going to be by motherfucking Josie Campbell and Evan Doc Shaner on art. That shit is cool. What an awesome team. I love Josie Campbell. She writes such really wholesome stories and understands the pure-heartedness of certain DC characters at their core. I love it. What this is about, Mary Marvel is becoming the new Shazam champion. Let's read what they have to say. Mary Bromfield has always struggled to determine who she is outside her family. Kinda hard to do when you're all superheroes. Now, after Billy Batson's heroic sacrifice, the power of Shazam has vanished, and she's been left powerless. Most heroes would be distraught, but not Mary. It's finally time for a voyage of self-discovery as she prepares for her freshman year of college and a civilian life. But nothing is ever truly normal for this young hero, because she's just been chosen as the new champion of Shazam, at least according to a talking rabbit sent by her estranged brother, Billy. Will she embrace the power, or will it die alongside this world's hope of survival against the mysterious magical forces waiting to take control? This is Mary Marvel's first solo miniseries. I guess Josie Campbell did Future State Green Lantern. I did not know that. I know her from a series of like one-shots that she's done that I really enjoy. And then Doc Shaner obviously just did Strange Adventures, and apparently he also did Convergence Shazam, so there's that too. Aquamen, Men, plural, number 1, written by Chuck Brown, yes, and Brandon Thomas. Chuck Brown, I believe, was one of the writers of Bitterroot, yes. Brandon Thomas, I'm not sure about, but there's going to be art by Sami Basri, a cover by Travis Moore, and then also Cale New and Nick Robles, and Jim Lee. And Alexis Franklin. There's a lot of covers for this. It says, dive deeper following the thrilling conclusion of Aquaman, The Becoming, and Black Manta, neither of which I'm reading. When a terrorist in Middle America is revealed as an Atlantean sleeper agent seemingly gone rogue, the Aquamen, Arthur Curry and Jackson Hyde, are on the case. But it soon becomes clear when the tragedy was not just a single bad actor, but the beginnings of a much larger and more dangerous chain reaction, and the heart of an explosive Atlantean conspiracy. If Arthur's not careful, the secrets he's keeping from Mera, Tula, Tempest, Atlantis, and the Surface, and even Jackson, could cause a rift in which the Aquamen may never recover. That's so funny, they're calling them the Aquamen. It's raining men! I'm sorry, I apologize. Monkey Prince #1 is written by Jean Lun Yang, who I love. I was trying not to cuss there. Art and cover by Bernard Chang, with variants by Stanley Artgerm Lau, Anand Radhakrishnan, Dustin Nguyen, and Sao Dao. It says, introducing the newest hero in the DCEU, the Great Sage, equal to the heavens, better than his predecessors, the legendary Monkey King, even better than the Justice League, and definitely the Teen Titans, actually all the heroes combined. Everyone, put your hands together for the Monkey Prince. Marcus' son moves around a lot because his adoptive parents are freelance hench people, so this month he finds himself as the new kid at Gotham City High School, where a mysterious man with pig features asks Marcus to walk through a water curtain to reveal himself as who Marcus really is. Someone that has adventured through the journey to the west, who can transform into 72 different formations, can clone himself using his hairs, and is called the Monkey Prince. Not gonna lie, I did not understand a lot of that, but I'm definitely gonna check this out because I love Jean Lun Yang, and I love seeing more Asian representation in comics. Suicide Squad Blaze #1 is by Simon Spurrier, with art by Aaron Campbell and a cover by Matias Bergara. It says this is long. This is long. I'm just going to read the end. Simon Spurrier and Aaron Campbell, the creative team behind the critically acclaimed John Constantine Hellblazer, have been turned loose on the DC title the one DC title even more horrific and black-hearted than that one. We suggest you brace yourselves. It looks like the team is Harley Quinn, Peacemaker. I'm probably not going to read this then. I hate that character. Captain Boomerang, King Shark. It's 3 issues. I was going to read it and then I saw that and I probably won't now. Weird Love Tales #1 is obviously their Valentine's Day special. It's written by a variety of names, including Rex Ogle, Rich Duke, Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, Rom V, Stephanie Phillips, and Devin Grayson, and it includes art by Geraldo Borges, Christian Duce, Phil Hester, Ande Parks, John Somariva, Roger Robson, and others, with covers by Yannick Paquette and Amanda Connor. What it says is, can you smell that? Love is in the air again, and we're here to warm your heart and brighten your soul with 8 timeless tales of weird love. Sorry, hold on, I just need to read that again. Yep, that says weird love. Well, alright. Looks like we've got stories of a love as old as Jurassic Time and Dinosaur Island, a bromance between Peacemaker and his... Oh god, really? And a first date you never saw coming. I might not get this. I hate Peacemaker. Catwoman #40, we're moving on. Written by Teenie Howard, who I love. Art by Nico Leon. Covers by Jeff DeCal, Jenny Frizen, and Sozamaika. It says, if I told you that there is a whole retro glam apartment building in Gotham called the Trixie that rents houses to mob wives, side chicks, and mistresses, and Catwoman has secretly taken a whole floor to herself, eavesdropping on mob wives and mistresses to blackmail them, would you believe me? Of course you wouldn't, because the last thing you want is to be caught knowing these truths at the only place in Gotham you can actually get away with murder. It sounds really fun, honestly. I'm super into it. Glad Jenny Frizen's still on it. Dark Knights of Steel #4 of 12 from Tom Taylor comes with art by Yasmin Putri. Oh, art by Bengal with cover by Yasmin Putri. Interesting. It says the arrival of the L's by spaceship 19 years ago. 19 years earlier was a pivotal moment for the kingdom and a prophecy was born. But what were those early years like for the elves, and how did they come to be monarchs of the kingdom? And what catastrophic event triggered everything that was to follow? Harley Quinn number 12 continues by Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossmo, covers by Derek Chu and Ryan Gonzalez. It says, if Superman had to deal with a bomb on a runaway train barreling towards Gotham, he'd just throw the whole thing into outer space like a football. Zatanna would do some cool magic thing. Aquaman would, summon an army of bomb-defusing dolphins or something. But I'm Harley Quinn. I can't do any of those things. So how am I going to defuse the bomb, save Kevin, and stop Keepsake from destroying Gotham? Well, I'm working on it, okay? Don't rush me. But I've definitely, certainly, without a doubt, got it handled. Probably. Supergirl Woman Up Tomorrow continues with issue 8 of 8, I guess wraps up with issue 8 of 8, by Tom King with art by Bilquis Evely and a cover by Janina Medeiros. It says, Krem's fate revealed. As Supergirl continues her battle against the brigands, Ruthie squares off against this most vile villain in hopes of avenging her father and completing their mission. Will justice be served on both accounts, or will our heroes fail? You won't want to miss this thrilling conclusion of the acclaimed miniseries that has changed Kara Zor-El for good. Last thing I want to talk about here is Nightwing number 89. I am not following this Nightwing series. It's by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. It's a variant by Jamal Campbell as well as Bengal. The reason I'm interested in this is because of the historical everything that it's covering. It says it's a Superman Nightwing crossover. Remember, Superman is currently John Kent. Years ago, when Robin took his first uncertain steps away from Batman as his own superhero, Superman stepped in and offered Dick Grayson some crucial advice, support, and a name, Nightwing. Now it's time for Nightwing to return the favor, to be concluded in Superman Son of Kal-El number 9 in March. It's Nightwing's gonna give him a name! Oh my god, that's so perfect! And it's a really, really cool cover. It's the cover by Bruno Redondo, I believe it is so cool. It's Nightwing diving off a building and Superman just kind of flying by with him as he dives off. It's really cool. I think this is so perfect, and I just wanted to wrap this whole episode up on that highlight, because I think that's going to be such a fun throwback to the history of Nightwing and John's father. I think that's so perfect. And that does wrap up this week's B episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. I will be back for another episode on Monday, the 22nd. It's going to be 42A. I will be covering the comic book pull list for the coming comic book week. I'll have my first impressions on Cowboy Bebop, no doubt some news, and maybe I'll finally get a chance to wrap up the Doom Patrol Season 3 and Young Justice Season 4 discussions as wherever they're meant to be at right now. But other than that, have an excellent weekend. Thank you guys for listening, as always. I do appreciate every little bit of effort you put into listening to this podcast and supporting it in whatever form that may be. Watch something geeky if you're able to. Read something geeky if you are able to. And try not to step on everybody's toes while you get sweaty about the things that you love. Peace out.